Good afternoon to our attendees. Welcome to our info session on our cloud computing program. I'm going to be your host today. I'm a senior student advisor at Montreal College. Student advisors are main responsibility is making sure that our students get the accurate information from us. We listen to their needs, career needs, and help them craft a career path. What I'll do is I'll give a couple more minutes for our participants to join and log into Zoom, and then I will kick off our presentation momentarily. Thank you. All right, so it's a couple minutes past 1 o'clock. I want to respect our participants' time. So welcome, everyone. We will be hosting a quick info session on our cloud computing program and have a roundtable with one of our instructors who is on the call today. And our primary goal is to give you some insight around our program. If you have any questions around the curriculum, around the industry, employment trends, we'll be happy to answer those, and then just identify some of the next steps for you should you decide to move forward with our curriculum. Now, before I move into talking about the curriculum and the program, I can imagine cloud is a big word. It has a lot of impact on technology, on how businesses operate under the main cloud umbrella, which is huge. There are a variety of different options, different career options, different technology vendors, different IT systems. So normally when we have a big technology word like that, without any context, we fall victim to a formula: content minus context equals confusion. And when we're in a confused state, it's a little bit more difficult to take the right path, take action. So one of the good starting points to eliminate that confusion is start to see how companies use the technology, seeing the world from the company's window. So with that, we try to provide some context to our students, and these principles apply to all our programs that we offer, whether it's cloud computing, software testing, big data, data analyst. You can check our faculties on our website. Some of these principles essentially hold truth because these are the trends that the company set, and technology evolved around these trends. So for the near past and the near future, there are certain things that really stick out in terms of how companies invest into technology, what type of technology worker they hire. So I want to share this with our participants for two purposes. One, it can give them an insight around what actions to take, what programs to choose. Also, we really appreciate you giving us your hour, your 45 minutes on a Saturday. So even if there is currently no need for you to move with our programs and services, this information can help you while you're interviewing with a company, because again, it gives you some context around technology, or whether you are trying to get a promotion internally. We just want to give you some value regardless of whether you'll be our student or not. So three primary trends we observed in the market in the last year is: first, speed to skill, and speed to continuous learning. Speed is really important in terms of hiring for companies because almost all of them are adjusting budgets. Hiring is one of the most expensive cost drivers for a company because there's a training aspect, there's time that's spent until the individual's training and their 100% efficiency, and then the concerns around retention. Will that individual leave us when we invest into it? So once an employee shows or future employee shows the right type of talent, that implies to them, one, they can get the job and start bringing 100% efficiency very early on. Also, they're assessing one's ability to show speed of learning new tools and new platforms as companies continuously invest into them. So in your interview process, if you can present your portfolio, present your case that you're someone who's quick to learn and also will be a valuable contributor to the business from early on, this is a major asset for you. Secondly, decentralization of IT. I think this is really important. What we mean by decentralization of IT is that companies, especially since COVID, are heavily investing into taking their core IT systems that they hold and pushing them deep into the business circles, such as processes in sales, finance, marketing, HR, in the outer layers of the companies, of the businesses, all the way to the consumer, to the customer. This is possible because we are living in the data economy, and there are various almost unlimited sources of data that the businesses are able to harvest for companies to make quick action, quick decisions from this very fast-paced, from this really data-driven environment. They had to have systems that can touch all aspects of business. So this opens up a unique scenario for future technology workers that I will talk a little bit more in detail. And thirdly, timing is, unlike in many cases in life, timing is very important. Well, we can't really say in certainty that there's going to be a recession or not, but what we can say in certain that businesses are preparing themselves as if there's going to be a recession. So IT or technology workers are in a unique position because even though we're hearing a lot of layoffs from tech companies from across all companies in the economy, IT workers is a high value resource during this time for three reasons. One, during the recession, companies do invest into automation to lower their operation cost. Two, recession means volatile demand into company services and products. That means that understanding the volatile nature of data becomes really important. Companies want to maximize this volatility by ensuring that even on uncertain times, they are able to perform products and services and deliver them to their clients. So investing into data technologies, connectivity, networking. And thirdly, recession time is a good time for companies to invest into disruptive IT projects, such as CRM projects, for instance, because when businesses are healthy, when the economies are doing well and the company is operating in a healthy environment, investing into a major IT project comes with an opportunity cost of disrupting day-to-day business and potentially lose clients. Imagine investing into a CRM system as the team is going through training, they're potentially going to lose lots of customers while they invest into their systems. So recession becomes a good opportunity because when the business is already down, there's less potential business that the company is losing. So they take advantage of this timing very deliberately and invest into disruptive IT projects so that when the businesses go back to normal, the minimal opportunity loss they face during their disruptive project is little. So that means for workers that they will invest into resources, help them move these projects forward. So what does this mean to a student who is planning to invest into a technology education? Well, skill and project-based learning is really important because those are the elements that you can show a potential employer that you're going to be a valuable resource to them. For decentralized IT, process knowledge, industry knowledge, knowing that particular process as the technology is expanding in the business becomes very valuable. Therefore, you might not need to have a tech background to become a tech worker. And from a recession standpoint, timing is important, as this period where businesses will heavily invest into IT projects will not last long. Like many recessions, economies go back to healthy state. So while the businesses are in midst of preparing themselves, timing the market, doing the right type of training, and investing in your education when the time is right becomes crucial. Now, with all these changes, what we observe in the market is that the formula of a worker is changing. There's almost no distinction between a tech worker and a non-tech worker. Everyone becomes a tech worker to some degree, and every tech worker is tied to the bottom line of the businesses in some function. So we see that this merging of skills are created in three pillars. If you have skills in technology knowledge, if you understand the technology on the emerging IT side, if you have human skills that help move technology between different teams, if you can communicate technical knowledge to a non-technical resource, if you can get business decisions, buy-in from business leaders using your human skills, if you are someone creative who's able to see patterns between all abundance in data in silos, these are important skills. So we try to develop those. And then the process knowledge. Process knowledge is one's knowledge around the particular function, particular industry, healthcare, finance, manufacturing, transportation, that helps business accelerate the decentralization projects on their IT. And we're all different. We can bring different skills into this equation, and based on your skill sets, based on what you feel your strengths are, based on the skill assessment that our expert teams we help you take the best course of action in terms of investing into your career. Now, data from our industry suggests this as well. If you look into the tech workers that were hired in the last 2 years in Canada, almost half of them came from non-technical backgrounds. Employment Canada stats show us that. We also look into companies that are still struggling to find right type of talent that has the background, that has the tools and platform knowledge that they can invest into, because they're evolving very quickly. But education or training oneself is not catching up to that pace. So if we take these numbers localized to our own environment, in Quebec, that roughly translates to 115,000 businesses that should you able to show the right type of skill, right type of value, that you will be a valuable contributor, because they're not able to find the skill set that they're looking for. So while that's the good news, the challenge is that human headspace, human mindset, even in hiring decisions, are still trying to catch up to this fast-pacing formula of a future worker. So while we're seeing there's high demand for new type of tech workers that hold a more holistic mix, we also see that hiring managers are still reluctant to hire without adequate experience. So how do you overcome that? Well, we need to help you build a professional story. Professional story in our curriculum is a mix of all these elements that we discussed. So I want to give some insight into our teaching methodology and how we approach to create this story to a future employer. In our AAC diplomas, our education program differs from 8 months to 10 months. For our upcoming summer winter session that's starting in February, we'll be bringing our curriculum into the market in 8 months. In the early stages of your education, you get to learn some fundamentals from that domain. Herman is going to speak more about that, but just understanding the cloud technology in its fundamental scope. Then we move into training the platforms that are common in the market, the platforms that companies are investing into. These changes, as we have insight from companies through our instructors, through our network, we modify our curriculum to reflect the high-in-demand platform teaching in our curriculum. Currently, for instance, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, Azure are the top in the market tools. So we try to train our students on those tools. We built the human skills such as creativity, teamwork, presentation skills through our workshops, and help you connect with the right type of decision maker through our placement services, which I'll speak a little bit more about that in the next couple minutes. And projects is really the bridge that exemplifies value to an employer, because now you can display this through a story by building your portfolio, almost mix of all these 4 or 5 elements together in our teaching methodology. Now, before taking more time, I want to introduce Herman to our guest today. Herman is one of our lead instructors for our cloud computing program. He's a cloud technical solutions developer at Google, bringing a lot of experience, a lot of real world scenarios and mentorship and leadership to his classroom. So Herman, thank you very much for joining us today.
Sure thing. Thank you for having me.
So Herman and I will have a quick roundtable, just Q&A session, just to give some insight about the cloud computing program that we're offering. But Herman, maybe a good starting point would be, could you perhaps give an overview of what is cloud computing? What are some of the trends in the market? What are some of the platforms that companies are using? Maybe just a starting point for our guest, that might not be a bad idea.
To try and sum everything up, we're talking about helping companies migrate from whatever infrastructure they have in their premises to be able to take all of that to what we call the cloud. The cloud will basically be any company offering to rent computing power to any type of company or person who needs it. And in this case, the trend is going towards migrating workloads to a decentralized data center somewhere over the world, where you can scale as you need to scale, where you don't have to do a big investment before you launch any type of product, website, or whatever it is. So it's something as you pay as you go. So that's more efficient in terms of investments for companies and startups and whatever it is, because instead of investing $1 million into whatever infrastructure you need, you can just start off with maybe $1,000 a month computing power and then scale up from there. So the skills that you would acquire is basically to help those companies or startups or whatever it is you're trying to do, get there, how to achieve that. How do you migrate everything to cloud? How do you run your applications in a manner that it's scalable and then it's affordable for companies to save money? When we're talking about going to the cloud, you're not only saving in infrastructure, but you're also saving in power, because you don't have to worry about powering systems. You don't have to worry about maintenance. You don't have to worry about security, because Google, Amazon, or Microsoft take care of everything that has to do with hacker proofing whatever you have. And in terms of scaling, that's where the human factor comes. So there has to be somebody like a DevOps engineer or those skills that you're going to learn at the college. That's what's going to get you that job to help those companies succeed.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that. I think one of the exciting aspects of cloud technologies, cloud computing, covering a vast range of functions both within one organization, but when you also think of small businesses who are competing with larger companies that don't have the equal budget, it just enables them to access enterprise level of computing power at a fraction of a cost should they invest it into an on-premise infrastructure. But with that, what that means to our students is that regardless of your background, whether you have technical background or non-technical background, based on your past experience, based on where you find strengths in terms of professional capabilities, there will be a function for you within this huge ecosystem that's almost impacting all aspects of business, all aspects of life. So with that, maybe Herman, we can go into a little bit more details around what we teach from a cloud curriculum standpoint. What do you cover in your classes with your students?
So let's make it more of an example type of approach. So let's say you're a startup company. As a startup company, you may be launching a service, you may be launching a website, or even if you're an already established company, you may already have this type of thing running somewhere else. So what do we teach? We teach you how to take any type of service, workload, or deployment and actually, how do you take it from 0 to something that is accessible by 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people at the same time? So how do you take that workload from one place and migrate it to the other? That's one thing we touch on. How do you take that service workload or website and scale it up to 1,000,000 people, 2,000,000 people, 3,000,000 people simultaneously? That's something we work on. How do you troubleshoot scenarios? How do you go from making a service that doesn't work to a working one? How do you migrate between cloud services? What if I'm on Google and I want to go to Amazon? What if I'm on Amazon and want to go to Microsoft? Or how do you create an environment where I can connect all three? Those types of things. There's projects that we get you involved in. There's real life scenarios that we bring into the classroom. There's the part where you actually get to actually design solutions from scratch. We actually deploy those solutions, and we actually teach you how to interact with that cloud computing solution that you selected, regardless of which one it is. And how even do you take that everything that you learned and actually connect it to something running on-prem. When I'm talking about on-prem, I'm talking about, let's say, a server running on a certain company. What if that's what they're using and they want to go global? What if that's what they're using, but they say we have to keep it, but we have to connect it to something like Google to have a little bit more efficiency? So those types of things is what we actually emphasize and work really hard on the program.
Perfect. I have two questions for you. When you first covered the introduction to cloud computing fundamentals, does that section give a good foundation for someone perhaps who's coming from a non-technical background so that they can take that knowledge and now further go into more details around designing, planning, configuration of the platform?
The point of the program is that anybody who doesn't know but has the willingness to learn and can get into such a field. The point of entering a higher education is that you're gonna learn. We're here to teach you. So that's the point. So yeah, anybody at Google, for example, I work with people who used to be firemen, people who used to be Olympic medalists, people who used to do jobs that weren't related to tech, but it was their hobby. It was maybe their dream, something that they stumbled upon and really liked it. So the answer to that is yes, somebody without a technical background. And when we start touching on that introduction to cloud computing, that's when we start like introducing you to that new language in tech. Like when we talk about what does really saying cloud mean? What does a region mean? What is a load balancer? When we talk about scalability, bandwidth, those types of things. So getting you into those concepts is just the start of whatever you think your career is going to be. Hopefully it's cloud.
Yeah. So one thing that our students, future students, can take away is that they might not necessarily need to have a background in tech, but they will have to put the hard work in, because it is about being committed to your studies. It is about maximizing the time that they have with you in the classrooms. I know from our discussions and feedback from our students, you are really sportive in your classrooms, but you're also very demanding, because that's the scale of the work that one needs to put into in order to be successful in the domain. So no prerequisite in technology, but a focus and highly commitment to your studies, maximizing the resources that your instructors give you, the college gives you. Which to that, the second point I want to make is that one of the advantages of Montreal College that we offer our students in our curriculum is we own our own data center in the college. It was an investment from my IT team. What that helps to our students is that you essentially have your own dedicated server space. So for your projects, all the projects that your instructors help you build, they're your dedicated projects. You will be learning at your own pace. You will be experimenting with the skills that you want to execute. So that gives you the flexibility of having access to your learning material 24/7, learn on your pace, through the lab hours, through the TA hours, but you also have your dedicated space where you can learn at the pace that you want. You can experiment stuff, and you're going to have a dedicated space in the server that we offer as part of your education infrastructure. Now, talking about success, salaries comes, of course, with the goal of how we take a career path to have better living, also work for what we love for, but at the same time, make a good living too. So these numbers are perhaps on the conservative side because this is the market for with the individuals with the right skill. But just to be conservative, we are taking numbers from Employment Canada or any statistical information that we have from companies. Cloud functions, like we discussed, offer cloud education, offer various different degrees of roles based on your background or the specialization you have, but you will be starting in a very healthy salary in terms of tech salaries go, and it almost offers unlimited growth from there on as you continuously invest into your studies. But just to give some insight around the starting salaries, again, these are most probably on the conservative side, but it should give our participants some idea. Now, we discussed about this, Herman, in your answer, so I think it's clear for our students. My next question is, can we talk about how projects are important? And in your role at Google, you're hiring a lot of resources for your company. You are training a lot of staff. You have a lot of technical resources. So you have a really good grasp of this. But how important are projects in terms of finding a job, in terms of showing a value to a future employer like Google, for instance?
It's not necessary all the time that you need to have worked on the project to apply to a high-end job. That's something that I wanted to take out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have, and if it's something that helps you sell what you know, it's even better.
Mm-hmm.
Normally in the types of interviews that you're going to encounter, you have to be able to show what you know.
Yeah.
You have to be able to express yourself in a way that it's clear to the other person. So it's not only about knowing a project and having the experience, but knowing how to organize your ideas at the time that you have to communicate or think on the spot on how to answer a certain thing. So when we say talking about projects, maybe we mean experience in a certain way, because the experience is what's gonna give you that extra edge at the time of given this scenario, what would you do? Given this issue, how would you troubleshoot? Having worked on projects would actually allow you to get to those answers quicker and better.
Yeah, that's essentially comes down to you have on most cases, especially at the early stages of an interview, very short amount of time to make the first impression and continue to move forward. So any tool, any resource you can use to differentiate yourself from all the other applicants in a shortest amount of time, that's going to help you get the next step, moving to the next step. Could be maybe with a hiring manager at that point of time, projects might become maybe less or more important, depends on the type of job, but it just will help you differentiate yourself during the interview process. Tell your story in the most effective way as possible. One of those will be showing experience to the company, because like we say, experience means speed to employment, speed to being efficient on the job. And we know that that's one of the things that companies really value because it's eliminating a pain point to them. So working on projects, displaying a story will be an important part for an interview process, at the very least to differentiate yourself from other candidates. Now, when we were sharing the different job titles and salaries, we gave a wide range of different job titles, but Or just to group them maybe in a couple of ways, what are some different career options one can get in the cloud computing upon completing the program?
It would really depend on what your ultimate end goal is. Sometimes the door to get into a big company is a different role than what you ultimately would like to do or get. Normally after completing, let's say, this new cloud program, you can work on something like anything related to cloud support. There's a lot of companies that work as vendors for big companies like Google, Amazon, or Azure, and their main line of work is offering cloud support roles to normal users of the platform. So this deployment is not working, or this product is not working as expected, or there's a bug, or things like that. So you're like that first line or first tier of defense that those companies have when it comes to support. So cloud support is one way to go. Sometimes that's the entry level job that is really going to teach you everything that you didn't learn at the college, like applying really everything that you learned in a matter that is going to be different, and every day is going to be you're going to be learning things that you weren't exposed to, because the college only gives you like a good fundamental, but after that it's everything that you're going to learn at the job. You can look at roles like technical support engineers. You can look at things like DevOps. DevOps sometimes has to do a little bit more about deploying solutions. Sometimes there's a little bit of programming involved, but it's not always necessary for what you're going to do. But if it's a good to have, because automation is something that on big companies is a good thing. It's a nice thing to have when you come and you're able to produce, for example, a script that can automate something instead of doing it manually. But yeah, I would say cloud support, or any role that has to do with networking, infrastructure, DevOps would be like the ideal. But yeah.
So segue into our next question, I guess then you can validate that instructors become a very important role, asset for our students in that decision, is because you'll be spending quite a good amount of time with the students. At that point, you're able to see some strengths, you're able to see some skills that the students display, and you will be able to guide them towards the right path. So can we talk about, we say that instructors and our students are our biggest assets. We're just the middle ground that connect the two together. What are some of the value adds that an instructor provides? I know you're very active with your students. Could you walk our participants over some of the things that you help the students with?
In my case, well, it's not a tricky question, but normally what happens is that when you have a good teacher, when you have a good instructor, you normally try to mold yourself after that person. You want to be ultimately successful as that person, even though everybody's path is going to be different. As an instructor or as a teacher, my ultimate goal is not to have my students say everything the same way that I taught them. The ideal answer for that is not for a student to say, this is what I learned and this is how they ultimately repeat the same thing that they were taught in the classroom. The triumph for everything is going to be for students to be able to create their own understanding of what they learned. So that would be the most important thing for me. So having a good instructor, it is important, because that person is the one who's going to teach you what you need to learn or what you still have to learn. But they're the ones who are going to be able to not only guide you, but serve as a mentor in a lot of aspects when you're building your career, especially if that person is doing something that you aspire to be. Yeah. That's a really important role model to have. So from my experience, I would say that's it.
Yeah, no, I myself was a student at the college 10 years ago. And that I went through the very same experience. That one of the things that I recall clearly taking away from my instructor was a Salesforce course, that it really gave me the confidence. Like you said, I was able to see a future self of my professional self in the instructor. It gave me a lot of clarity around where my strengths are, and I was able to put a couple skills together to define a target role for myself. But most importantly, I can say, and you and I, we discussed a lot about this, is that the confidence, especially for individuals who come from different backgrounds, might be new to tech. In one area, we know there's going to be demand to their skills regardless of their tech background, but it still takes confidence to just perhaps put yourself into an intimidating learning environment. So instructor is the one that knows the right time to push, motivate, identify skill, build confidence. So plays a very essential role. So with our studies, one common question we get is compared to, let's say, and I'm going to group two questions here together just to save time, compared to a university type of education, perhaps, longer duration education. Does the program offer long-term growth in a career growth, which you hinted to that question by telling our students that most of the learning will be on the job, but it creates an opportunity to continuously build upon your skills. So does our students able to, if they're doing a hard shift into technology, build a long-term career over the studies that they're exposed at MCIT?
I guess the short answer is you are going to be able to be job ready quicker if you study at an institution like Montreal College. Let me explain why. My background is in electronics engineering. I am an electronics engineer. The vast majority of things that you learn in engineering, there's things that you will use, some things you're not going to ever see again. Being an engineer will give you the possibility of, let me try and explain things with an example. If you're going into a job that is requiring you to configure a certain type of hardware for a special deployment that you're doing on the field, learning how to configure that piece of hardware and learning how it works doesn't mean you need to know all the math that went into designing why an antenna is done this way and how do you calculate how fast data will move in a vacuum for a certain application. So there's things that you're going to learn quicker by doing a study at the college versus going to a university and spending something like 2 years learning all the math basis for a concept that you're going to learn in a week, maybe. So that's like one of the easiest things that I can give you. Not that it's a bad thing or a good thing. It really depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a quick way in to try and have a return on investment, I would say Montreal College is the way to go. If you're somebody who really wants to deep dive into a career in tech, but you're not sure of what you really want until you try it out a little bit, Montreal College is still the way to go. And if you really like it, then you can go and look at a professional 5-year study at any university that you wish.
Yeah.
Hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight.
No, absolutely. And you know, we have graduated almost 5,000, a little over 5,000 graduates, and most oftentimes university background is a complementary to the teachings that we provide. So there is a very large portion of our students, more than half, that already come with a university background, and some of which are in technical degrees. As you mentioned, the university's 4 or 5 years education really teaches math understanding, fundamental understanding, but there are oftentimes a gap between the learnings that you learned at the university and the hands-on skill that the companies need. So our programs are offered to fill in that gap, so that on top of your university education, on top of the deep-rooted foundation engineering level education or math programming level education, MCIT offers the application of that theory through tools, so that upon graduation you can show companies that you have the technical background, but also the hands-on relevant tools and platforms background to be job ready. Now, Herman, thank you so much for your answers, and feel free to step in the next section that I'll share with our students, should you see that you want to contribute something. But in the next, and I want to be respectful of our time, 5-10 minutes, I just want to walk our students through what will be the next steps should they want to come and meet us and go through a skill assessment. We're a brick and mortar education institution right at the corner of St. Catherine and Robert Brossa, across the McGill Metro Station in downtown Montreal. So you can come and meet with our student advisors so that they can review your particular unique background, unique case, unique goals. There are certain things that makes our program a viable option for our students, one of which is that you can study at your own pace. We're a brick and mortar education institution. However, you will have access to course material through our learning management system. You can study at your pace. We have flexible TA and lab hours that you can participate from home. Our programs are offered as full-time and part-time. Part-time AAC diplomas are offered in the evenings on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, depending on the course that you pick. For our upcoming winter session for our cloud computing program, we're offering them from Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 6 to 9 o'clock. That helps our students to do work, or if they have responsibilities within the day, whether it's a language school, a lot of newcomers. Our students who are newcomers invest time into learning French. If you're working in a company, it gives you the flexibility to study in the evenings. Certification programs in a given particular technology, let's say AWS, they're shorter in duration, 1 to 2 months. It certifies you to a technical skill if you already have a background in it. It also gives you a taste of that particular technology if you want to invest into it further. For a longer duration time, it gives you a good idea. So our upcoming winter schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 6 o'clock to 9 p.m. In our summer, we're going to add an alternative schedule on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Our summer session will be starting on the first week of June. Now, I also want to give some insight around the cost of our programs. So I think it's very clear, I don't need to repeat that myself, is that investing into education is an investment in oneself. But there's still financial aspects to it, of course. Our programs cost $10,000 for our local students and $13,500 for our international students. Now, I want to make a quick parenthesis for those who might be international students on this call, that winter 2023 session will be the last session that our students will be eligible to apply for post-graduation work permit. And if you haven't already applied for our winter session, it's already too late. Our session for international students have started. So for those who are interested for our summer program, the program will no longer be eligible by the Ministry of Quebec to issue a post-graduation work permit, as the law has changed. Unsubsidized private institutions are no longer eligible to issue the work permit. So unfortunately, you can still come, it will be eligible to receive a CAQ, but it will not be possible for you to apply for a post-graduation work permit. Now, when we're talking about investment into education, I just want to visualize that for our students, because oftentimes, especially for our cloud programs, we have students who come from a non-technical background. So sometimes technology education is a little intimidating. So they're also assessing training options in other fields, in non-technical fields. So here's an example I share with them, which I feel that it really resonates. So if you take this line as a non-technical career growth, there are outliers available. I don't want to make I'm generalizing it to some degree, but with it is very common that your career growth, whether you define that as title or earnings, however growth is defined within your goals, is really driven by seniority. Seniority means the time you spent doing that function or with that company. And oftentimes there are just not vacant positions. You have to wait for somebody who is maybe retiring soon, but you can have a lot of potential, you can have a lot of energy, you can have a lot of drive. Unfortunately, it's capped with just the growth being linear and depending on time and somebody opening up a vacant position in the company. However, if you take career in tech, it really gives you hacks throughout your career. So as technology continues to evolve, it provides opportunities for you to stack your learning on the foundation from the previous learning. So you can get a new certification as new cloud platforms become available. You can continuously invest into your education. You can add a complementary diploma. Your employer probably will continue to educate you. So you look back over a time, 5 years, 10 years, you really hacked the growth system by exponentially stacking up onto your type of skills and find these growth opportunities either within your company or elsewhere in the market. So I want to bring that emphasis to our students. And I think that's, regardless of what education institution you choose, one of the biggest hacks that technology education provides to future tech workers. But in terms of its immediate return, we also see that upon graduating, and this is not for our club program, but overall if you were to look into your salary, you will be increasing your salary upon graduation as you move into a tech function quite steeply, almost in basic numbers, 55-60%, sometimes doubling your salary depending on where you're starting from. So taking no action is really the most expensive aspect of it, because it means that every month you are delaying, it's your future salary that you're not getting by not transforming your career into tech. Now, having said that, we understand immediate cash is an immediate concern for many of us, and we offer financial aid programs in two ways. We offer loans and scholarships. Loans for our AAC programs, which our CLAP program is one of the approved programs. You're able to apply for a student financial assistance through the Ministry of Education of Quebec. Our advisors help you apply for it so that you can get a student loan. For those who might not want to use their AFE option, or for one or other reason are not qualified to apply for it, or decide a program from our bootcamp or certifications that doesn't qualify for the AFE program, we have also financial partners. Microcredit Montreal is one of the most reputable in Canada that offer financial loans for technology workers, for individuals who want to invest into technology. So we don't want finances you to stop moving forward. Their interest rates that they offer are competitive market rates. They're continuously changing. I think right now it's around 6.5 interest rates, just like a bank would give. For our private partners, financial partners, you don't need to have a previous banking history. So this is good for newcomers to Canada if you haven't built up credit in Canada, or for our existing Canadian students, if for some reason you have bad credit and you went through a rough patch and banking relationship impacted from that, we don't require a credit history. You don't pay principal until you find a job, which I'll display that in an example. It really makes it feasible from a cash flow standpoint. You only start to pay the principal of your debt once you get a job and once you have a healthy income that can support that. Payback terms is 3 years with our private financial partners and 10 years with the government loans. Now that depends on how long you want to pay interest. Personally, I would advise for my friends, family, if they decide to, let's say, move forward, and I also discuss with our students as well. I'm a person who don't like to pay interest. So if I have especially at these rates, if I have the income that to cover quickly, I would like to pay my debt back as quickly as possible. And there are no early payment penalties for those who also wish to do that. So I just want to give a quick example of how a financing model would work. So let's take point A is the time you're in the first day of your classroom. This is the first day of your classroom, and point B is the first day in your future job, in your future tech job. I took very modest numbers for both cases. Let's assume that in your previous education, your salary was $35,000, pre-education salary. You went through our skill assessment program, chose the right type of program, you're starting your program. So 8 months plus 2 months job search is done. 10 months have passed since you get your new job. And within that, there's a slight typo. I think I was doing this example for another customer, a student for a 6-month education program, but the numbers are accurate. So 10 months have passed. In that 10 months, you only paid the interest for your education. So on a cost of an AAC program, it's roughly $60. So you paid $60 to increase your salary by $40,000. And this is a really good example of the return on the investment because, and I also advise students to, when you're choosing the right type of program for you, it could be a tech program or non-tech program. Aside from looking into the cost of the program or whether it's a subsidized, a free program, focus on the potential of your career future. Your starting salary, if a technology education will give you $20,000 or $15,000 higher salary, a program that's subsidized is not free. Because if a subsidized program will give you $10,000 less, well, it wasn't free. It was the future potential salary that you could have made with a tech salary. Or if you're investing into tech education, and look into your total earnings over the course of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, when you're making an assessment on how to choose. Because in terms of paying back the cash that goes out of your pocket, there are ways to, again, hack that as well. Life is all about success in finding little hacks to help you achieve your goals. That's my personal opinion. Now, for those who qualify for scholarship too, we have a variety of different options. If you're a newcomer to Canada, and we use that term very liberally, if you have arrived to Canada in the last 2 years or less, you can apply for a Newcomers to Canada program. If you have a recent graduate from a post-secondary diploma or a degree with a qualifying education institution in the previous years, you will qualify for financial support on the recent graduated program. If you have shown academic success, you will be able to eligible a higher degree of scholarship if your transcript displays that. One of the things that I really like in our scholarship program is the relevant experience program. So like Herman earlier mentioned, in his teams, there are individuals with various different backgrounds, Olympics, gold medalists, and firemen. We also want to bring that type of variety, color into our classrooms, because aside from learning from your instructors, a very big portion of learning is through your peers by on your projects, by seeing the best use cases in how somebody applies technology from their field. That gives a lot of confidence. It builds you get inspiration. So if you are someone who's bringing in a colorful background, please review your case with our student advisors, because we want to reward that. And if you unfortunately have impacted through the changes in the markets and you were laid off in the previous six months, please mention that in your application, and we will be able to apply a scholarship. So quickly, I want to move through our placement services, because the tail end of your education is how do we find you a job. There are 4 buckets we help you with: networking, interview prep, portfolio prep, building your story, and mentorship through your education. So networking, I would say, would be one of the most value add that I believe we bring to our students. What it means is essentially connecting you with the decision maker. Applying to a job is one of the most challenging, frustrating aspects of any career. Generally, the odds are not in your favor. In an average position, there are more than 100 people apply. You have very little time to create an influence or a perception in an interview, and most often they're unfortunately subjective. almost in all cases, you're competing against an internal candidate that has already built a rapport and relationship with the key decision maker in the hiring process. So those are some tough odds to overcome. What we try to help students is through our network of companies, network of instructors, level 2, level 3 network, connect you directly with the decision maker so that you, again, I repeat, use this terminology many times, hack the inefficient system. The biggest value add, if you ask me about what our college provides you, is creating these hack groups in shifting your career. Life offers these spaces, and if we can help you hack them, get to your goals quicker by eliminating the inefficient process, that's a value for us. So networking is absolutely one of the most important aspects of that. I highly advise you to discuss with your student advisor in more detail how we help our students connect them with the decision makers. So with that, I will going to wrap up. If you want to learn more about why we have more than 85, close to 95% success in placement rates into top companies in Canada, I advise you to go out to our website, click on to talk to an advisor button. It will open up a form to populate your personal information just so that we can connect you with the right resource and have a 30-minute session on your skills, on your career goals. We'll be able to connect you with the key resources. If it's an instructor, with an instructor, just to give you one-on-one feedback. We'll share a little bit more time on the placement services that we offer, on the type of workshops. So you're going to get in lots of valuable information from that session. So I think a 30-minute really could work if it means that it can change your life. It can change your career for good. So we're right in on 1 hour, a little over than the time that I had promised you, but I hope that you found the information valuable. Upon finishing our session, you will receive an email from your dedicated student advisor, Danny, with his calendar availability. I suggest that you just book a half-an-hour session, go over some of your questions in more detail, some of your career goals, and if we can help you, we can help you. If not, it will be just a session that you exchange some valuable information with someone from the industry. So thank you very much. Have a great rest of Saturday for everyone, and we look forward to meeting with every one of you. Take care.